Hi there, my name is Johnston and I manage the IT contracts team at MCS Group. I specialise in the recruitment of contract software engineers and QAs. So every day I am speaking with new companies or existing clients about how contractors can benefit them and their projects and their businesses. The main comment I would hear probably in relation to using contractors always comes down to price. A lot of companies would feel that they're too costly or they're maybe not cost effective in relation to some of their projects. We've put together some information to kind of compare the costs between bringing a contractor in and comparing that then to a similar candidate who would be looking for permanent employment. For comparison's sake, we have compared a £500 per day contractor with a candidate on the permanent side who would have salary expectations of in and around £70,000 per annum. Generally speaking, contractors are very senior candidates. They have a number of years of experience behind them and then have decided to set up their own company. So for illustration purposes, we feel that that would be the best comparison. So when we look at the contractor, the £500 per day rate is inclusive of agency spend. The only thing that isn't included in that rate is VAT. So with the contractor, you're not paying sick leave, paid holidays, there's no maternity, paternity, holidays, pension match, employer's national insurance. Literally the only thing you're paying for is the contractor on the days that they are doing the work for you. Assuming a 1-year contract, although the average in Northern Ireland tends to be 6 months, but for comparison's sake, we'll assume a 1-year contract with a contractor taking probably about 4 weeks off, maybe during the course of that year. So you are looking at a total price of £110,000. So compare that to a permanent employee, so £70,000 per annum. It's probably worth pointing out, first of all, that of that £70,000, roughly about £8,500 is to cover holidays. So you will be paying £8,500 for a time that the employee isn't actually in the office. On top of that, you need to pay your 13.8% employer's national insurance, which is roughly about £9,600, and 5% pension match would equate to about £3,500 per year. Your average bonus is in and around 10%, so there's another £7,000. So all in, you're already looking at a spend of £100,600 for the year. We haven't included all the other costs, such as paternity pay, paternity, sick leave, adoption leave. There's also like voucher schemes, health insurance, dental cover, all the other perks and benefits that employers are using these days to keep attrition low and to make sure their permanent employees are happy in work. All of those things only apply to permanent employees and do not apply to contractors. So really what we find is the difference in cost is actually an awful lot less than you would think. £500 a day probably sounds quite scary, but whenever you actually add in all of the other things that you need to pay a permanent employee, it really does bring the difference down quite dramatically. Some of the benefits of using contractors, I suppose, is if the project finishes early, you can end the engagement, which obviously is not something that you can do with a permanent employee. So they are much more flexible. They come with so much experience and they're so used to jumping into new projects in and out of different technologies. They don't typically need the same kind of ramp up time. It's second nature to them. So I suppose if you would be interested in talking about this in more detail and getting a chat about how contractors could be of use to your business, I'm more than happy to speak to you if you want to give me a wee call on 02890 235456. Thanks.